million miniatures challenge. Hello, welcome back to Engine Killer. My name is Hank, and on today's episode, I'm going to be working on the Skyhunter Phalanx for Legions Imperialis. I am also still working on my Psi Titan. It's not finished yet. I actually have the base right here that I just finished gluing some ruins, rubble onto. So, as you can see, it's still a work in progress, and it is really, really close to being finished. But I don't know if the video for that will be done and ready for the next episode or the one after. But for now, let's see how I'm doing on the Skyhunter Phalanx. When I set about priming these, it was still pretty cold outside. This was a couple months ago. I think it was probably still January. I was having a little bit of problems with my rattle can. I'm not sure if there was a problem with the cap or because of the weather, but it was definitely kind of sputtering a bit, and you can see there's kind of some splashes here and there. But ultimately it worked out. I was able to get everything primed. I wasn't really able to do that great a job with the primer, and I ended up having to go back and pick out a lot of areas that had been missed with the primer, so I just went back in and hit those with a little bit of white. But then once that was done, I went back over everything with a pretty generous coat of Citadel's white contrast paint, which if you've never used it before, it's really great. As long as the model is already painted white, then you go back over it with this, and it kind of gets like a light bluish gray into all the cracks and crevices, and it basically does all the shading for you. Yeah, I love this white contrast paint. It looks really great. Because before, when I would paint white, what I would do is paint everything a light bluish gray or light gray, and then build up my white highlights onto that. As you can see, all the land speeders are already built, but I did keep the jet bikes and bikes on the sprue for most of this first part, at least. So here I'm just going back over, once that contrast paint is dried, and going over it with a white dry brush. Not too heavy, but kind of like a medium to light dry brush, just to kind of give it like a zenithal highlight from the top down. this is great. This black AK paint pen that I was able to use on the bike tires. Having this paint marker just made it so much easier to just be able to hold it all on the sprue and go in and pick out all the tires. Super easy. Okay, so here it looks like I skipped a step, or I think what I'm going to do is come back to it later, as I'm going to go ahead and go through and do all the blue first, just for video editing purposes. But yeah, this is just a Citadel color Kellador Sky blue, which I'm going to use that for all of the World Eaters markings that kind of have these like little triangles on the fronts of the jet bikes and like a stripe on the land speeders. And then just kind of some other little bits and bobs here and there. I think like on the land speeder wings. And while I've got this blue going, I've also got to go through and pick out all of the shoulder pads. Because you can see them, they're all the little Space Marines riding. And their shoulder pads are all going to be blue. So in this part, what I'm going to do is go through and pick out all of the gunmetal. For the most part, this is going to be like undersides of the land speeders. And then there's kind of that little bit that goes on top of the jet bikes. That whole part that goes in front of the rider on the jet bikes. And then that little bit that goes right behind them. And then also the guns, weapons, and the undersides. I think that's about it. So here I'm going to use this Citadel dry paint. This is called the Ryza Dust. It's just like a very bright orange. I'm going to use that on the backs of the land speeders. The little engine exhaust on the back. And this here was a mistake. Not painting that part, but the my having transferred this Dorn yellow into a dropper bottle, because this paint is just, it's really, really thick. Supposedly it's a layer paint, but it seems more like a dry paint like that Ryza Dust as far as the texture goes. And it's can be kind of a pain to get out of that dropper bottle. And so here what I'm doing is I'm going back over, kind of going around the lower half of the land speeders with Citadel Seraphim Sepia. This is for weathering. This is just to make it look a little bit dirty. Like it's kind of been kicking up dust as it's flying around. So once that Seraphim Sepia shade is dried, I'm going to go back over and just very carefully kind of dry brush over that a little bit from the top down with white again. And just trying not to hit any of the blue or metal, trying to keep as much of that Seraphim Sepia as possible. Alright, so far these guys are coming along great. They're super close to being finished. I really don't have that much left to do on them. I wanted to try to include that in this video, but I think I got sidetracked working on the Side Titan and some other miniatures for the Million Mini Challenge, but soon enough this will be done. I will we'll circle back to that eventually. Cheers.